The morning started like any other in the small town of Pine Grove. 8-year-old Jack sat at the kitchen table, pushing his cereal around with a spoon, while his mother cleaned dishes at the sink. Through the window, golden sunlight painted warm squares on the wooden floor. It was perfectly normal, until it wasn't. The shadows came first. They raced across the ground like dark clouds on a windy day. But there wasn't a single cloud in the sky. Jack's spoon stopped halfway to his mouth as he watched the kitchen grow darker and darker. His mother turned from the sink, drying her hands on a towel, her face filled with confusion. "That's strange," she said, walking to the window. "I didn't hear about any storms today." But these weren't storm clouds. As they looked up through the kitchen window, they saw them. Massive ships, dark as thunder and wide as cities, hovering silently in the sky. They blocked out the sun like giant metal islands floating in the air. The phone started ringing everywhere. Jack's father burst through the front door, still wearing his mailman's uniform. "Mary, Jack, turn on the TV, now." Every channel showed the same thing. Huge alien ships appearing over cities all around the world. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Everywhere, these giant vessels hung in the sky like floating mountains. People ran through streets, cars crashed into each other, and soldiers pointed their guns upward, though they looked tiny compared to the massive ships above. Jack felt something strange in his chest, like butterflies, but stronger, more electric. His hands tingled, and the lights in the kitchen flickered. His mother didn't notice. She was too busy watching the TV with his father. But Jack knew something was happening to him. It had happened before, but never this strong. The first attack came at noon. Green beams of light shot down from the ships into the cities. Tanks exploded. Fighter jets fell from the sky like dead birds. The world's armies fought back, but their weapons seemed useless against the alien ships' invisible shields. "They're calling them the Star Empire," Jack's father said, his voice shaking as he watched the news. "They're broadcasting messages in every language. They say Earth belongs to them now." Jack's mother pulled him close. "It's going to be okay, sweetie," she whispered, but Jack could feel her trembling. That night, they huddled in the basement with flashlights and radio. The power had gone out hours ago. Through the small basement window, they could see strange lights in the sky and hear odd humming sounds that made their teeth vibrate. Jack couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw strange pictures in his head. Stars spinning, weird symbols glowing, and creatures he'd never seen before. His skin felt hot, then cold, then hot again. The radio next to them crackled with static every time he moved. "Dad," he whispered in the darkness, "I feel funny." His father touched his forehead. "You don't have a fever, but you're sweating. Try to rest, son." Jack tried, but the feelings got stronger. The radio wasn't just crackling now. It was picking up voices that weren't supposed to be there. Strange voices speaking in weird languages, but somehow Jack could understand them. They were talking about patrols, about searching, about finding something important. Through the basement window, they saw large, dark shapes moving down their street. Alien soldiers, walking in perfect lines, their armor glowing with soft blue lights. Jack's parents held their breath, trying to stay perfectly quiet. But Jack couldn't stay quiet. The feeling inside him was too strong now. It felt like lightning in his bones, like thunder in his head. The radio exploded in a shower of sparks. The basement lights, though there was no power, suddenly blazed to life. "Jack," his mother whispered, fear in her voice. "Jack, what's happening?" But Jack couldn't answer. He was too busy watching the strange blue symbols that had started glowing on his skin, symbols that looked exactly like the ones on the alien ships above. The glowing symbols on Jack's skin lit up the basement like blue fireflies. His mother reached out to touch them, but pulled her hand back quickly. They were hot, like freshly baked cookies. The radio wasn't the only thing acting strange anymore. All around Jack, metal objects started to float. Nails pulled themselves from the wooden shelves. Tools danced in the air, and even his father's old bicycle lifted a few inches off the ground. "Make it stop," Jack whispered, his voice shaking. "I'm scared." But being scared only made things worse. The floating objects spun faster, and the blue symbols grew brighter. Outside, they heard the heavy footsteps of alien soldiers getting closer to their house. The patrol was right outside their basement window now. Jack's father held him tight. "Son, you need to calm down. Take deep breaths, like we do when you're nervous about school tests." Jack tried to breathe slowly, but then they all heard it. The sound of their front door being broken open. Heavy boots thumped on the floor above them. The aliens were inside their house. That's when Jack's fear turned into pure panic. A wave of blue energy burst from his body like a ripple in a pond. Everything electronic in the basement died instantly. The floating objects crashed to the ground. But the effect didn't stop there. It spread outward, through the walls, across their yard, and down the street. The alien soldiers outside made strange screaming sounds as their powerful suits suddenly went dark. Their weapons fell silent. Even their communication devices died. Through the basement window, Jack's parents watched in amazement as the aliens stumbled around like people wearing heavy Halloween costumes, their advanced technology now useless. "All units retreat," a voice shouted in a strange accent. "Unknown energy weapon detected. Retreat immediately." The sound of confused aliens running away filled the street. Some of them bumped into each other in their rush to escape. Their heavy boots, once marching in perfect order, now stomped away in chaos. Jack's mother hugged him tightly. Did you do that?" Jack nodded slowly, looking at his hands. The symbols were fading now, but he could still feel the power buzzing under his skin like angry bees. "I think I broke their stuff." His father peeked out the basement window. "You did more than that, son. You scared them away." "But how?" Before anyone could answer, a new sound filled the air: helicopter blades. But these weren't alien ships. They were regular human helicopters. Through the window, they saw soldiers in normal human army uniforms moving down their street, checking the pieces of alien equipment that lay scattered everywhere. A loud knock came at their front door. "This is Commander West of the U.S. Army. We detected a massive electromagnetic pulse from this location. Is everyone all right in there?" Jack's father went upstairs and opened the door. Soon, their small basement was filled with soldiers, scientists, and people carrying all kinds of beeping machines. They all wanted to look at Jack, but they kept their distance when they saw small sparks of blue electricity still dancing around him. "Incredible," one scientist said, looking at his readings. "He generated an EMP strong enough to disable their tech, but it didn't affect our older equipment at all. It's like his power knew exactly what to target." Commander West knelt down in front of Jack. "Son, I know you're scared, but what you did today, you might have just shown us how to fight back. Those aliens thought they were invincible because of their advanced technology, but they never expected to face something they couldn't explain: the power of a human child." Jack looked up at all the faces staring at him. The symbols on his skin had completely disappeared now, but he could still feel the power inside, waiting to come out again. For the first time since the invasion began, he wasn't afraid anymore. Instead, he felt something new: hope. "Can I do it again?" he asked. "Can I help?" Commander West smiled. "That's exactly what we're hoping for, son. Because right now, you might be Earth's best chance." High above Earth's atmosphere, aboard the Star Empire's massive command ship, Chief Scientist Mar stared at his screens with growing fear. The energy readings from the small town made no sense. He had checked them 20 times, but the result was always the same. "High Admiral," he called out, his voice trembling. "You need to see this." The High Admiral walked over, his metal boots clicking on the shiny floor. He was tall, even for their species, with dark blue skin that seemed to absorb light. "What have you found?" Mar pointed to the swirling patterns on his screen. the energy signature from the human child. It matches the ancient texts, the ones our people have feared for 10,000 years. The High Admiral's eyes widened. Impossible. The star children are just stories to frighten young ones. Look at these readings yourself, Mar insisted. The symbols that appeared on the child's skin. They're the same ones carved into the temple walls on our homeworld. The ones that warn of beings who could touch the very fabric of space itself. In another part of the ship, the Empire's best scientists were studying videos of Jack. They watched as he disabled their technology with a single burst of energy. Some of them noticed how the lights in the videos flickered even before his power exploded out. The human child didn't just break our equipment, one scientist explained. He somehow knew exactly how our technology worked without ever seeing it before. It's like he could read the language of the universe itself. The High Admiral called an emergency meeting of the Empire's Council. Leaders from all their conquered worlds gathered through hologram projections, their faces showing worry and fear. There's more, Mar continued, his hand shaking as he brought up new data. We've detected similar energy patterns in other human children across the planet. They're faint, like sleeping giants, but they're there. The power isn't just in one child. It's hidden in their entire species. The council room erupted in panic. Some leaders demanded they leave Earth immediately. Others wanted to capture all human children before they could discover their powers. A few suggested destroying the whole planet before it was too late. The High Admiral raised his hand for silence. Our ancestors warned us about this. The ancient texts speak of worlds we must never conquer, species we must never challenge. They tell of children born with the power to reshape reality itself. Meanwhile, Earth's children were beginning to change. In cities and towns across the world, kids reported strange dreams filled with alien symbols and mysterious languages they somehow understood. Some woke up with faint blue marks on their skin that faded by morning. Back in the council room, an old scholar named Tor stepped forward. He was the keeper of the ancient texts, and his word carried great weight. The prophecy speaks of a first one, Tor said quietly, but everyone listened. A child who would awaken first, showing others the way. This boy, this Jack, matches every sign our ancestors warned us about. The High Admiral walked to the ship's giant window and looked down at Earth. The blue planet seemed peaceful from up here, but he knew better now. Their scans had found thousands of children with dormant powers similar to Jack's. Each one was like a sleeping star, waiting to shine. We thought humans were primitive because their technology was simple, the High Admiral said. But we were wrong. They're not primitive. They're evolving. Becoming something our ancestors feared more than death itself. Mar checked his readings one last time. The energy signatures are getting stronger. More children are waking up every hour. And the first one, the boy. His power is still growing. The High Admiral made a decision that would change both their civilizations forever. Prepare a message to all ships, he ordered. The invasion of Earth must end. We've awakened something that should have been left sleeping. But it was already too late. Across Earth, thousands of children were beginning to dream in colors that didn't exist, and the symbols of an ancient power were starting to glow once more. 1 week after Jack's power first appeared, the military had turned his house into a makeshift base. Scientists with strange machines came and went. Soldiers stood guard outside, but none of them could have prepared for what happened next. It started with a strange sound in the middle of the night, like singing glass. Jack sat up in his bed, the blue symbols already starting to glow on his skin. He knew something was coming. He could feel it. "Mom, Dad," he shouted. "They're here." Before his parents could reach his room, the air itself seemed to tear open. A hole appeared in space, glowing with purple light. Through it stepped 5 tall aliens in special suits that sparkled like diamonds. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were the Star Empire's elite capture team. "Nobody move," the lead alien said in perfect English. "We only want the child." Commander West and his soldiers burst into the room, pointing their guns at the aliens. but their weapons suddenly floated out of their hands, pulled away by some invisible force. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm us," the alien leader said. "Our suits are made to resist even the child's power. We have studied him. We have prepared." Jack stood up slowly. The symbols on his skin were glowing brighter than ever before. "You're lying," he said quietly. "You're scared of me. I can feel it." The alien leader took a step forward. "Come with us, child. We will help you understand your power. We will." But Jack wasn't listening anymore. He was listening to something else, the voices of other children in his head. All across Earth, they were waking up, their powers growing. And somehow, they were all connected, sharing their strength with him. "I already understand," Jack said. His voice had changed, seeming to echo with the voices of thousands of other children. "We all do." The aliens raised their weapons, but it was too late. Jack lifted his hand, and suddenly their special suits weren't so special anymore. The sparkly diamond coating cracked like ice. Their advanced weapons fell apart in their hands. But Jack didn't stop there. With his other hand, he pointed at the purple portal they had come through. It started to shrink, but not before he learned exactly how it worked. The knowledge just appeared in his head, like remembering something he had always known. "Impossible," the alien leader shouted. "He's learning dimensional engineering just by looking at it. Retreat. Retreat." The aliens ran back through their portal just before it closed. But Jack wasn't finished. He walked to the spot where the portal had been and raised both hands. New symbols appeared in the air, glowing with blue light. With a sound like thunder, a new portal opened, one he had made himself. Through the portal, they could all see the inside of the alien ship. Hundreds of Star Empire soldiers backed away in fear as Jack's image appeared before them, projected through his portal like a giant hologram. "Listen carefully," Jack said, his voice still carrying the echo of thousands of children. "Earth is our home. We don't want to fight you, but we will if we have to. And we're getting stronger every day." Commander West stepped forward, amazed at what he was seeing. "Jack, how did you learn to do this?" Jack turned to him, his eyes glowing softly. "I didn't learn it. I remembered it. We all did. The aliens were right about one thing. Humans aren't primitive. We're just sleeping. But now we're waking up." Through the portal, the aliens watched in terror as Jack's power continued to grow. The blue symbols now filled the entire room with their light, and small objects began to orbit around him like planets around a sun. The ancient texts were right, one alien whispered. "The Star Children have returned, and they're more powerful than ever." News of Jack's victory over the alien capture team spread like wildfire across the world. Children everywhere watched videos of the glowing boy who could open portals and break alien technology. But they weren't just watching. They were changing too. In Tokyo, a 10-year-old girl named Anna woke up with blue symbols dancing across her hands. When alien ships flew over her city, she reached out and turned their engines to stone. The mighty vessels fell from the sky like rocks. In Brazil, twins playing in their backyard discovered they could talk to each other without words. When an alien patrol threatened their neighborhood, they joined hands and created a shield of pure energy that covered their entire town. The Star Empire's soldiers began to panic. Every day brought new reports of children displaying impossible powers. Some could turn alien weapons into flowers. Others could make their ships disappear and reappear miles away. A group of kids in Africa turned an entire alien base into a giant sandcastle. Back in Pine Grove, Jack sat in a special room filled with screens. Commander West had turned the town's old library into a command center where they watched reports coming in from around the world. "How many now?" Jack asked, watching the glowing dots appear on a world map. "Over 10,000 children showing active powers," Commander West replied. "And more awakening every hour. The alien's presence seems to be triggering something in every child under 12 years old." On one screen, They watched as a small boy in Russia walked straight through an alien force field like it was made of air. On another, a girl in Australia made alien soldiers float helplessly in the air, while their weapons turned into butterflies. Aboard the Star Empire's command ship, panic was spreading. Soldiers were refusing to go on patrols. Some entire crews abandoned their ships rather than face the powered children. The ancient texts were being read everywhere, and the warnings seemed clearer than ever. When the Star Children wake, High Admiral read from the texts, reality itself will bend to their will, for they are not bound by the laws of physics. They write those laws anew. Jack could feel all the other children in his mind now. They shared their discoveries like kids trading cards. One would learn how to turn alien metal into water, and suddenly they all knew how. Another would figure out how to make force fields, and the knowledge spread instantly to all of them. But it wasn't just powers they shared. They shared their hopes, their fears, and their dreams. None of them wanted to fight. They just wanted their world to be safe. The stars are so pretty, a young girl in India thought, and all the powered children across Earth could see the galaxy through her eyes. The aliens are just scared, thought a boy in Canada. Like we were when they first came. Jack stood up from his chair, his skin glowing with now familiar blue symbols. "Commander," he said, "I need to talk to them again. Not to fight, to help them understand." He opened a portal right there in the command center, but this time it was different. Instead of looking into the alien ship, they saw a view of Earth from space. It was beautiful, a blue marble wrapped in swirling white clouds. "Look," Jack's voice echoed through every alien ship in orbit. "This is our home. We're its children. We're not your enemy unless you make us be. We can share what we know. We can help each other understand the universe. But first, you need to stop being afraid of us." The High Admiral watched from his command ship as thousands of children around Earth began to glow with the same blue light as Jack. Their power was no longer something that could be fought or contained. It had become something much more important, a bridge between two civilizations. The Star Empire was falling apart from within. In the great warships above Earth, soldiers threw down their weapons and locked themselves in their quarters. Many were having the same dream, a nightmare about powerful beings who could reshape worlds with a thought. But these weren't just dreams anymore. They were looking out their windows and seeing it happen. "Another ship has gone dark, High Admiral," Mar reported, his voice shaking. "The crew says they won't fight against the ancient prophecy. That's the 15th ship today." The High Admiral stood on his command bridge, watching his mighty fleet crumble. Some ships were trying to flee, but their engines wouldn't work. The children had turned them into giant toys. One battleship now looked like a rubber duck floating in space. Another had been transformed into a massive glass bottle filled with twinkling stars. Down on Earth, Jack had become a teacher. In a field outside his town, he sat with hundreds of other children, showing them how to control their growing powers. The grass around them had turned every color of the rainbow, and butterflies made of pure light fluttered through the air. "Remember," Jack said to the circle of glowing children, "we don't use our powers to hurt. We use them to protect and create." A small girl raised her hand. "Can we fix things too? My mom's car is really old." Jack smiled. "Here, let me show you." He touched the ground, and blue symbols spread out like ripples in a pond. All across town, old things began to repair themselves. Broken windows fixed their cracks. Rusty cars turned shiny and new. Even the old library's leaky roof sealed itself up. In the Star Empire's ships, the religious leaders had taken control of several decks. They knelt before ancient symbols that matched the ones glowing on the children's skin. The Star Children were never meant to be our enemies. They prayed. They were meant to be our teachers. The High Admiral received desperate messages from across his fleet. "Our weapons turn to flowers when we try to use them. The children have turned our prison cells into playgrounds. They're rewriting the laws of physics faster than our computers can track." But the biggest shock came when Jack opened a portal directly into the High Admiral's private chamber. This time, he wasn't alone. Hundreds of children from around the world appeared with him, each glowing with their own unique pattern of symbols. "Your empire is built on fear," Jack said gently. "But we want to show you something better. We want to show you wonder." The children raised their hands together. Suddenly, the High Admiral could see the universe as they saw it, not as something to conquer, but as an endless playground of possibilities. He saw how they could fold space like paper, turn stars into stepping stones, and write new laws of physics like drawing pictures in a book. "Remarkable," Mar whispered, looking at his readings. "They're not just affecting our technology anymore. They're changing the very fabric of reality. And they're doing it with joy." That was what finally broke the Empire's will to fight, not the children's power, but their happiness. While the aliens had built their civilization on conquest and control, these children were reshaping the universe with laughter and wonder. The High Admiral made his final decision. He walked to the ship's main communication system and pressed the broadcast button. His voice echoed through every Star Empire vessel around Earth. "To all ships and soldiers of the Star Empire, our conquest ends today. We came to this world believing we were supreme. We were wrong. The children of Earth don't need our knowledge. Instead, we need theirs." As his words spread through the fleet, the children continued their work. They turned weapons into works of art. They transformed warships into gardens. And most importantly, they showed the aliens that the universe was far more wonderful than they had ever imagined. 1 month after the High Admiral's surrender, Earth had changed in ways nobody could have imagined. The massive alien warships that once threatened the planet now floated peacefully in orbit, transformed by the children into beautiful space stations. Their dark metal surfaces now sparkled with rainbow colors, and gardens grew inside them, tended by both human and alien hands. Jack stood at the window of one such station, watching Earth spin below. Behind him, a class was in session, but not like any class that had existed before. Alien scientists sat cross-legged on the floor, while human children taught them about the true nature of the universe. "See," a young girl explained to an amazed alien scientist, "space isn't just empty. It's like a big piece of paper we can fold." She demonstrated by creating a small portal between 2 points in the room, making a pencil travel instantly between them. The High Admiral, who had become Earth's main ambassador to the Star Empire, walked up to stand beside Jack. "A year ago, I thought we were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy," he said quietly. "Now my best scientists are learning basic physics from 8-year-olds. Jack smiled. "That's because you tried to understand the universe by controlling it. We just play with it." Down on Earth, the changes were even more dramatic. The children had started what they called the Making Things Better project. In every city and town, they used their powers to clean pollution from the air and water. Dead forests came back to life. Endangered animals returned in great numbers. In Pine Grove, Jack's old house had become something special, the first school of universal understanding. Children from around the world came to learn how to use their powers wisely, while alien visitors came to learn how to see the universe in a new way. "Remember," Jack told a group of new students, "having power isn't about being strong. It's about being kind. We can change anything we want, but we have to think carefully about what we should change." The Star Empire's ships brought news from across the galaxy. Other civilizations, hearing about Earth's children, sent representatives to learn. The children's way of seeing the universe, as something alive and full of wonder rather than something to be conquered, was spreading among the stars. Commander West, who now helped run the school, watched as a group of children turned a piece of the playground into a miniature galaxy, complete with tiny living stars and planets. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" he asked Jack's parents. Jack's mother shook her head, smiling. "When the invasion started, we thought it was the end of everything. Instead, it was just the beginning." In orbit, the High Admiral received a message from the Star Empire's homeworld. The Council had made a historic decision. They were transforming their empire into something new. Instead of conquering worlds, they would learn from them. The ancient texts, they finally understood, weren't warnings about the Star Children. They were instructions to seek them out and learn from them. As the sun set on another Earth day, Jack sat with his friends, both human and alien, in a garden that floated in space. They watched shooting stars pass by, and sometimes reached out to gently redirect them, making them dance in the darkness. "What do we do next?" one of the alien children asked. The Star Empire had started bringing their own children to Earth, hoping they too might learn to see the universe in this new way. Jack pointed to the distant stars, his skin glowing softly with those now familiar blue symbols. "We explore," he said, "but not to conquer or control. We explore to learn, to grow, and to make things better. Because that's what real power is for." And as night fell over Earth, thousands of children dreamed of stars and distant worlds, their powers growing not with fear or force, but with hope and wonder. The invasion that was meant to conquer humanity had instead awakened something beautiful within it, the power to make the universe a better place, one small miracle at a time.